Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're diving into a quiet Valentine in the countryside, where one simple flower is enough to heal the heart, until a stranger's uneasy stare reminds Tu Tien that peace can be fragile. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. Valentine's Day in the village doesn't come with neon signs or fancy reservations. It arrives quietly, like sunlight sliding across the yard after a cold night, soft, ordinary, almost shy. That morning, Tu Tien is still in pre-tete mode. The house smells like clean floors and fresh air. The curtains they washed yesterday hang neatly again. The kitchen corner looks brighter. Even the little altar area feels calmer, like someone pressed a reset button on the whole home. Jack wakes up earlier than usual, but he doesn't say it's for anything special. He moves with that familiar work face on, focused, slightly serious, like he's already in his own head. Tu Tien is pouring warm water into a cup when he appears at the doorway, fixing his watch and smoothing his shirt like he's about to meet a client. "Are you going somewhere?" she asks. Jack nods, casual. "I have to handle something." "Company?" Tu Tien asks, because lately that's always the reason. Jack hesitates for half a second, just long enough for her to notice. Then he makes his voice steady again. "Just something. Stay home, rest. I'll be back soon." Tu Tien blinks at him. "What about the errands?" "We still need..." "I'll take care of it," Jack says quickly. "You wait here." It's not rude, not cold, but it's firm in a way Jack rarely is with her. It makes Tu Tien pause, holding her cup with both hands, watching him like she's trying to read the hidden words behind his mouth. Jack steps closer and lowers his voice. "Promise me you won't run around today." Tu Tien gives a small, almost amused smile. "I'm not a child." "I know," Jack says. "That's why I'm asking." Something about the way he says it, gentle but serious, makes her nod. "Okay, I'll stay." Jack relaxes, like he's been holding his breath. He reaches out and brushes a strand of hair away from her face. It's such a normal gesture that it almost feels like nothing. But lately, nothing feels normal, and small touches start to feel like vows. "I'll be back," he says again. "Drive safe," Tu Tien replies. Jack walks out to the yard. The handmade tet lights are still hanging from last night's work, swaying slightly in the morning breeze. He looks up at them for a second, then walks to the white pickup truck and starts the engine. Tu Tien stands at the doorway and watches until the truck turns out of the lane and disappears. For the next hour, she keeps herself busy the way she always does when she's nervous, tidying something that is already clean. She straightens the tablecloth again. She checks the jars of pickles and dried goods. She wipes the counter, even though there's nothing to wipe. Then she tries to sit. But sitting makes her think, and thinking makes her remember that line in the expense notebook. From last night, the advance payment, Jack pointed out, with that quiet, careful tone. He didn't accuse her, he just asked. And she didn't answer properly. Not because she wanted to lie, because she didn't want to add another heavy thing on top of everything else. Tu Tien presses her palm lightly against her chest, like she can calm her heartbeat that way. "Today is supposed to be quiet," she whispers to herself. Just one quiet day. Outside, the village keeps moving. Roosters call from somewhere far. A motorbike passes. Someone laughs loudly for a second, and then the sound disappears down the road. When Jack finally comes back, it's late morning. Tu Tien hears the pickup before she sees it. The engine sound is familiar enough to loosen the knot in her stomach. Jack steps out holding a small paper bag, and in his other hand, almost hidden behind his back, there's a small potted flower. Not a grand bouquet, not dramatic, just a simple little bloom, bright and alive. Tu Tien freezes in the doorway. Jack clears his throat, suddenly awkward like a teenage boy. "So, I handled something." Tu Tien looks between the paper bag and the flower, confused. "What is that?" Jack walks up and offers the pot first, like it's fragile. "Happy Valentine's Day." Tu Tien's eyes widen. "Jack, it's not expensive," he says quickly, like he has to defend it. "It's just a flower." Tu Tien takes it carefully, holding it with both hands. Her expression shifts surprise, then warmth, then something softer that looks almost like she might cry but refuses to. "You didn't need to," she starts. Jack lifts the paper bag. "And this is candy. The lady said it's the kind people liked when they were younger." Tu Tien laughs under her breath. "So, you bought candy and a flower?" Jack nods, embarrassed. "Yes." Tu Tien looks down at the small pot again. "It's pretty." "It will last longer than a bouquet," Jack says, and then adds quietly, "I want it to stay." Tu Tien doesn't reply right away. She just stares at the flower as if it's proof that the world can still be gentle. Jack shifts his weight and tries to sound normal again. "Get your jacket. I'm taking you somewhere." Tu Tien looks up. "Where?" Jack points down the road. "The garden cafe, the quiet one." Tu Tien's eyebrows lift. "We have errands." "We do errands every day," Jack says. "Today we drink something sweet and sit for a while." She studies him, suspicious. "Is this your plan to distract me from something?" Jack pauses for just a moment, then smiles like he's surrendering. "Maybe." Tu Tien holds the flower close to her chest. "Okay." They lock the gate and climb into the pickup. The village road is bright, the trees moving gently, the air cool but not harsh. Jack drives slower than usual, as if speed would break the fragile mood between them. At the cafe, everything is calm. Plants spill over the edges of pots. The tables are simple wood. There's quiet music in the background, not loud enough to pull attention away from conversation. The place smells like coffee and leaves and sunlight. Jack picks a table where they can see the garden but still feel tucked away. Tu Tien sits down and places the flower on the table like it's a centerpiece. Jack orders 2 drinks and 1 small dessert, nothing fancy. Then he sits across from her, elbows on the table, looking at her with that steady gaze that always makes her feel seen. For a minute, neither of them speaks, not because they have nothing to say, because peace is rare, and when it appears, you don't want to scare it away with too many words. Jack finally breaks the silence. "I don't need a perfect day," he says. "I just need you to be here." Tu Tien's fingers tighten around her cup. "I am here?" "I know," Jack says, "but I mean, really here." Not forcing a smile, not pretending you're fine. Tu Tien swallows. Her voice comes out softer than she expects. "I'm scared the calm won't last." Jack nods like he already knew that. "Then we make calm one small choice at a time." Tu Tien looks down at the dessert, then back at him. "What if the world doesn't let us?" Jack leans forward slightly. "Then I will still choose you, every time." The words hit her in a quiet place inside her chest. The place that still remembers fear. The place that still flinches at sudden sounds. The place that doesn't fully trust happiness yet. Tu Tien forces a small smile. "You talk like you're trying to convince me." Jack's smile turns gentle. "I'm trying to convince both of us." They sip their drinks. They share the dessert. Their hands meet on the table, fingers touching, then holding, like they're checking if it's still allowed. Tu Tien's eyes soften, and for the first time in days, she laughs without forcing it. The sound is small, but it's real. Jack watches her like that laugh is the whole point of Valentine's Day. Then, as Tu Tien lifts her cup again, she feels it an odd pull in the air. The feeling of being looked at. She glances toward the entrance. A person stands near the edge of the cafe garden, half hidden by plants. Not doing anything obvious, not approaching, just watching in a way that lasts a second too long. Tu Tien's smile fades. Jack notices immediately, because he always watches her face first. "What is it?" he asks quietly. Tu Tien doesn't answer yet. Her eyes stay on that figure, her heartbeat starting to tap against her ribs again. And Jack, without making a scene, shifts his chair just enough to place himself between Tu Tien and the angle of that gaze. Jack doesn't stare back. He doesn't challenge anyone. He just adjusts his posture like a door closing gently, the kind that doesn't slam but still makes a point. Tu Tien notices the small movement, and something in her chest loosens. Not because she suddenly feels safe, she doesn't, but because she's not alone in the fear anymore. He's sharing it with her, without forcing her to explain. Jack keeps his voice normal. "Do you want to leave?" Tu Tien swallows. "Maybe it's nothing." Jack nods once. "Maybe, but we don't have to test it." He raises his hand and signals the staff, calm and polite. He pays quickly, doesn't rush, doesn't create panic. It's like he's protecting the mood as much as he's protecting her. Tu Tien keeps her hands on the flower pot, fingers curled around the edge like it's something solid she can hold on to. When they stand, Jack stays close, not gripping her arm, not treating her like she's fragile, just walking beside her in a way that says, "I'm here. If anything happens, I'm here first." They step out of the cafe into the open air. The light is still soft, and the road is still the same village road, but Tu Tien feels like she's walking with her senses turned up too high. Jack opens the passenger door for her. Before she gets in, he leans down slightly and says, very quietly, "Look at me." Tu Tien meets his eyes. Jack's expression is steady. "Breathe. Nothing is happening right now. We're going home." Tu Tien nods, and only then does she realize she was holding her breath. She climbs into the pickup carefully, keeping the flower pot on her lap like a child holding a treasure. Jack walks around the front of the truck, glances once, just once, toward the cafe garden. The figure is no longer there. Jack doesn't comment on it. He starts the engine and pulls away smoothly, as if the entire moment never happened. But Tu Tien can tell by the way he grips the steering wheel that he saw it too. For a few minutes, they drive in silence. The road curves past rice fields and small houses with Tet decorations, beginning to appear simple red ribbons, little strings of lights, potted marigolds placed by gates like bright, cheerful guards. Tu Tien turns the flower pot slightly, studying the petals. She tries to anchor her mind in something harmless. Jack breaks the silence gently. "Are you okay?" Tu Tien answers honestly, but softly. "I was okay, and then I wasn't." Jack exhales. "I hate that." Tu Tien's gaze stays on the flower. "I don't want to ruin the day." "You didn't," Jack says immediately. "The day is still here." Tu Tien looks out the window. Sometimes it feels like calm is borrowed, like we're holding it but it could be taken back. Jack's voice is quiet but firm. Then we hold it carefully. And we don't pretend we're not scared. Tu Tien finally looks at him. "You're scared too." Jack nods. "Yes." The honesty is simple, and that's what makes it heavy. Jack has carried so much for so long: projects, pressure, responsibility, like he can outwork any problem. But fear doesn't listen to effort. Tu Tien speaks again, almost like a confession. "When you bought that flower, for a minute, I forgot everything." Jack glances at her, then back to the road. "That's why I bought it." Tu Tien lets out a breath that's half laugh, half sigh. "You're not good at being romantic." Jack's mouth twitches. "I know, but you're good at being steady," Tu Tien says. "That's better." Jack's voice softens. "One flower is enough, right?" Tu Tien nods, eyes shining. One flower is enough. They reach home, and Jack parks carefully. He waits until Tu Tien is fully out of the truck before closing the door, like he doesn't want to startle her with sudden movements. Inside the yard, the handmade Tet lights are still hanging, swaying lightly. The house looks peaceful. It looks like a place where nothing bad could enter. Tu Tien walks in first and sets the flower pot on the table, right in the center where they can't ignore it. Like a small promise sitting in plain sight. Jack turns and checks the gate. He does it quietly, without dramatizing it. Then he locks it and walks back in. Tu Tien watches him. You're thinking about the person at the cafe. Jack doesn't deny it. I'm thinking about how you noticed them first. Tu Tien shrugs weakly. My body reacts faster than my mind. Jack's eyes soften. I wish I could take that away from you. Tu Tien takes a step closer, voice small. You can't. Jack nods. No, but I can do this. He opens his arms slightly, asking without forcing. Tu Tien steps in, and he holds her gentle, careful, steady, not a dramatic embrace, a quiet one that says, "This is home." For a moment, Tu Tien rests her forehead against his chest. She closes her eyes. I'm tired, she admits. Jack kisses the top of her head. Then rest. You don't have to fight today. Tu Tien's voice trembles. I'm scared that if I rest, I'll make you carry everything again. Jack pulls back just enough to look at her face. Listen to me. You are not a burden. You are the reason I keep going. Tu Tien's eyes fill. She tries to blink it away, but a tear slips out anyway. Jack wipes it with his thumb. Don't apologize, Tu Tien whispers. I don't want you to lose the project. Jack shakes his head. I don't want to lose you. Tu Tien's breath catches. Jack continues, slow and deliberate, like he's building a wall out of words. The project matters, of course it does, but it's not my heart. You are. Our home is. Tu Tien swallows hard, and if the calm doesn't last, Jack answers without hesitation. Then we fight together. They stand there in the quiet living room, the flower pot between them like a witness. Tu Tien finally manages a small smile. You're trying to be romantic again. Jack gives a tiny laugh. I'm trying to be honest. Tu Tien nods. That's the best kind. They spend the rest of the afternoon doing small things, ordinary things, because ordinary is healing. Tu Tien rinses cups and rearranges the kitchen corner again. Not because it needs it, but because the movement calms her. Jack fixes a loose hook near the doorway, then checks the string lights outside, making sure everything is secure. At one point, Jack brings out the candy he bought and places it beside the flower. Tu Tien looks at it and laughs softly. This is your idea of romance, she says. Jack shrugs. It's simple, like us. Tu Tien picks up one piece and holds it out to him. Then eat with me. Jack leans forward and takes it. He chews slowly, then looks at her like the taste is tied to the moment. It's good, he says. Tu Tien smiles. It tastes like childhood. Jack nods. That's what I wanted. Later, as the sun starts to lower, the yard takes on that warm golden tone that makes everything look softer than it really is. They sit on the front step with 2 cups of warm tea. The tet lights blink gently above them. Tu Tien rests her shoulder against Jack's arm. It's a small lean, but it carries everything: trust, fatigue, hope. Jack looks out at the quiet lane. Do you remember when we couldn't even imagine a calm day? Tu Tien nods. I remember. Jack speaks softly. Back then, if we had one peaceful hour, it felt like a miracle. Tu Tien's voice is low. Now we have peaceful days, and I still feel like I'm waiting for the next storm. Jack reaches for her hand. Then today, we don't wait. We live. Tu Tien squeezes his fingers. I'm trying. Jack looks at the flower inside, visible through the doorway. That's enough. Tu Tien turns to him. Thank you. Jack's eyes soften. For what? For not making me explain everything, Tu Tien says. For seeing it anyway. Jack nods. I'm your husband. I'm supposed to see you. They sit quietly until the first stars begin to show. The day doesn't end with fireworks. It doesn't end with a big scene. It ends with tea, soft blinking lights, and 2 people choosing each other again, one small choice at a time. And somewhere deep inside Tu Tien, beneath the fear and the memories, something gentle settles. Not a guarantee, not a perfect promise, just the feeling that tonight, at least, she can breathe. Jack acts unusually busy and asks Tu Tien to stay home, making her think he's just running errands. Instead, He quietly buys a small bouquet and a humble little gift, something practical and sweet. He brings her to their garden cafe, where they share a drink and a simple dessert while the afternoon light settles over the village. Jack admits he doesn't need a perfect Valentine, only her presence and honesty. Tu Tien confesses she's afraid the calm won't last after everything they've survived. Jack reassures her that peace is built through small choices, one day at a time. On the way out, Tu Tien notices a vendor lingering with an unsettling stare. Jack calmly steps between them, shields her without a scene, and gently suggests they go home together. In that quiet walk, they hold hands and breathe again.